I'm thinking I'm not a flyer, only a spectator, and I just happen to be sitting with 3 pretty girls. Oh, please, I'm a mind reader. You didn't know how to say no. Sell that to someone else. I keep thinking she will kill me in my sleep or something. You know her name means death? Midas thought to her. Virtuoso knew her name really meant 4. She stared off in the distance, stunned at how many people were spooked by she. Darkspeed was one of the last to show up and look for a seat. Olympian saw that he was looking around. Darkspeed, come sit with us. Darkspeed made his way over to the hitters and sat down. Thanks for saving the seat, Darkspeed said. You're not a flyer, are you? Olympian asked. No, just a runner. Good, that means I have a chance. Coach Spurs looked up at the new gold and silver construct overhead. He figured he might as well go up too. It seemed to have the best seats available. By the time the coach reached the top of the stairs, the children were laughing and making noise like a roar. Quiet, he said loudly. If flyers and spectators are going to sit together, the spectators have to be quiet. The list of flyers is Avian, Bioforce, Flare, Glimmer, Hollow, Ion, Isotope, Kinetic, Nano, Newton, Olympian, Orbit, Ranger, Saber, Shockwave, and Sniper. If you can fly and are not on the list, please come see me. Otherwise, get down at the starting line for the first test. Bioforce looked at She with a questioning look. She looked at Bioforce and said, Well, you can fly, can't you? Bioforce saw the other flyers flying over the railing and stood up to join them. I just didn't think that I would be competing today. Thank goodness for the grays that they gave me. What's that about her grays? Midas asked. She was given special grays that morph with her into a thin, transparent film-like substance, she said, pointing to Bioforce, who had just stepped up to the railing. Bioforce jumped over the edge and turned into a giant eagle. The eagle then soared down by the others. That's handy, Virtuoso said. Coach Spurs looked around until he was satisfied that everyone was present. Listen up! The students gathered near him. Everyone, look at the 2 hollow G beacons in the distance, he said, pointing to the 2 red pillars of light miles in the distance. The beacons are 10 miles away. Your race begins here. He was pointing to a makeshift line in the sand. You will go out and around both beacons, circling from the right. The first 7 back across this line will continue to the next stage. Coach Spurs then motioned for one of the techs to speak. If you think you will be going faster than 3,000 miles per hour and don't already have a friction suit, come see me, said Bobby. Half the kids were wearing the metallic blue suits already, and no one else came forward. Coach Spurs walked up to the finish line and pulled out a small electronic device. Take your positions on the line, arms width apart, he said. The students were in line, making distance while Coach watched. Is everyone ready? All the flyers looked to the front and said nothing. Go! The line seemed to disappear. Hollow, Nano, Bioforce, and Shockwave could still be seen leaving in the distance. A flash of light appeared back at the finish line. Ion, the boy who transformed into lightning, was back in less than 1 second. Right behind him were 2 blue streaks that continued to get faster. Boom! Was the sound that rocked everyone as 2 missiles went past. The missiles were joined by a 3rd, and then a 4th, a 5th, and then a 6th. The 7th was a little longer in coming. After that, the time between started to grow. Aside from Ion, do we know who won? Midas asked the 2 girls. Virtuoso thought for a second. The techs had cameras and sensors recording. The results say Ion, Olympian, Kinetic, Ranger, Orbit, Glimmer, and Sniper are the 7 that made it, she said. Bioforce, as a giant eagle, took a couple minutes to come in, followed by Nano and Hollow. Coach Spurs told the top 7 to stay and the rest to go back to the stands. Bioforce joined the others back in the stands. Everyone was buzzing about the results they could barely see. Did Olympian really beat Kinetic to the finish line? Bioforce asked. Yeah, I read the tech's minds to get the whole story, Virtuoso explained. The test was to accelerate out to the beacons, stop your momentum, turn and accelerate back. Kinetic was faster on the turns, but Olympian has tremendous acceleration. Ion won because he can maintain all his lightning speed while turning. She looked at Virtuoso like she had never noticed her before. You 2 have been picking up little pieces of intelligence like that from the start, haven't you? Midas looked at Virtuoso for some type of clue as to how to handle the accusation. Bioforce looked at both of them like they were caught doing something that they shouldn't have been doing. Virtuoso looked at She for how to handle this question. If you 2 have something to add, maybe we can share information, Virtuoso said with a great poker face. She looked at her like she was playing poker too. What kind of information were you looking for to get into your little club? First off, you're not the only one with super hearing. This is the only way we can talk in private. Virtuoso thought to she and the other two. Are we on like a telepathic party line? Midas thought. It would seem so, Bioforce thought. My telepathy forms a hub for all of us to communicate with each other, Virtuoso thought. This is actually really cool, she thought to the others as she looked straight ahead as if she was talking to no one. The others took a cue from her and faced forward like nothing was happening. Below, the 7 flyers were getting instructions from Coach Spurs. He explained to them the obstacle courses and the rules which they had to abide by. As I said, you may not touch another flyer or you're both disqualified. On my air horn, you can start. The coach paused and then blew the air horn. 7 flyers raced across the desert floor. Ion was in the lead as he never needed to slow down. His lightning form just changed direction. Olympian and Kinetic kept passing each other. Olympian thrusting ahead on straightaways and Kinetic slipping by him on the obstacles. Glimmer and Ranger were keeping a close 4th and 5th. Orbit and Sniper were quick, but their reaction time was not enough to keep up with the pack. Kinetic finally made enough time up on the obstacles that Olympian could not catch him on the straight parts. Ion crossed the finish line first with a few seconds before Kinetic and Olympian took 2nd and 3rd. The rest crossed in the order of Glimmer, Ranger, Orbit, and Sniper. Ion kept a speed of over 250,000 miles an hour and never had to slow down for turns, Virtuoso shared with the others. Unless we have someone who turns into a beam of light, I don't think anyone can beat him, Midas added. The 7 flyers gathered next to Coach Spurs and another man. The coach seemed to be giving the students new instructions. I've seen that man with Coach Spurs before, she said. Give me a sec, Virtuoso thought to the others. I'm getting nothing off him. I mean nothing. He has a mental shield like I've never felt. Coach Spurs knows him as Coach Connors. He's the first coach. He's here to monitor the flyers as they leave orbit. Spurs can't fly. That's Coach Connors? She thought with surprise. How do you know him? Midas thought. He was my father's coach when Alpha first started 27 years ago. Really? He doesn't look over 30, Bioforce said. No, he doesn't, and he was first coach then, too, she said. But where did you see him? Midas asked she. I've seen him come to visit my father before. He was at the Tokyo Hall when I was young. Virtuoso looked at she while she looked down at Coach Connors. You really want him to pick you for his team, don't you? She answered. You don't have to be a mind reader to know I won on first team. Yeah, but he trained your father. Who else would you want to train you? Bioforce asked. She didn't answer. She was deep in thought. Visions of first team glory? Virtuoso asked. No, trying to hear down there, she said. I'll save you the trouble, Virtuoso thought. They are going to follow Coach Connors into space one at a time. From there, it's full tilt to get a maximum speed. Their placement is according to some instrument Connors has that gives feedback to the text. Wow, into space? Midas said, looking up. Wait, not all of them can go into space, Virtuoso said. Who can't? Asked Midas. Does that disqualify them? She asked. Give me a second. Virtuoso paused to use her power. Not disqualified. They're considered all tied for last on this event. Only Kinetic, Olympian, Ranger, and Orbit can go into space. Ion can't go into space? Midas asked. No, lightning needs air to travel on, she said calmly. Virtuoso looked at she. You have been paying attention. You know he can only travel on things that normal lightning could travel on. You know he could electrify water but not fly in it. Not all of us are mind readers. Some of us need to pay attention and work out the possibilities in our heads. On the ground, Ion, Glimmer, and Sniper were sent to stand next to the text. Kinetic was the first to get the go-ahead to follow Coach Connors into space. Both of them took off straight up like rockets. 3 of the 4 students sitting together now looked at Virtuoso for updates. The techs are monitoring their progress. The idea is for them to either loop the moon and back or just go as fast as you can for 5 minutes then turn back. Kinetic is accelerating at over 500,000 miles per hour, and he's still getting faster. I'm also reading Kinetic's mind. He knows he can go faster. How much faster can he go? Bioforce asked. He's now being tracked at over 2 million miles per hour. Kinetic is putting everything he can into it. 3 million? 5 million? 6 million? How fast is the speed of light? Midas asked. 1 billion kilometers per hour, 670 million miles per hour, 186,000 miles per second, or 3 million meters per second, she stated. Thank you for that very thorough answer, Midas said. He's topping out now, at about 13 million miles per hour. That's just under 2 PLS, she said. The others looked at her. When my mother deals with energy weapons, their speed is rated in PLS, or percentage of light speed.